Ready?
1 second.
It's recording.
It's recording.
Good evening and welcome to tonight's episode of Unforced Errors, which is no longer two old guys talking about tennis. It's three young guys talking about tennis. It's the 24th of January. It is 7:33. An eventful day at the Australian Open today, which we're going to be talking about. We're also going to be talking about the ATP Cup. We're going to be talking about lots of things, but those are the two main things we're going to be talking about. Joined tonight by David. Say hello, David.
Yo, what's up?
A professor at the University of Tennis.
Absolutely.
And Stephen. Say hello, Stephen.
Hello, everyone.
And there'll be a feast of Stephen comments tonight about all current affairs kind of things. Very good tennis player.
Yes.
David and Stephen both play for Hove Park. So, Australian Open, we're going to kick off with. We're not even halfway through the Australian Open, but already there's been some drama. How has it been so far for you? Are you up to date with the matches? Have you watched them today? What are your feelings?
I'm very excited about the Australian Open, especially today after the mega win that Federer had against Millman. There's a lot of things to talk about because we already had some upsets.
Yeah.
Shocks.
For example, one of the first things before we go to Federer is Serena was defeated today. But my big question is, what is going on? Serena has stopped right at the brink of history. She's one Grand Slam away from...
And she was playing so well in the tournament, wasn't she?
She was. Everybody was like, she's going to win this. And suddenly, again, she's out. Will she ever? She is the best player of all time, but she needs to hit this mark of at least the same Grand Slams has Margaret Court?
Yeah, Margaret Court, yeah.
Yes.
Will she do it? Will she do it?
Because it's what, 2 or 3 finals?
Yeah.
It's mental block. It's not her skills.
I think her last hope is probably this Wimbledon coming up. So she's won the most of her titles at Wimbledon, has she not?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, if she doesn't get the
majority,
one there, then...
French is maybe her weakest tournament, though she has won 2 or 3. I think Serena stands a chance at all of them. But yeah, as the years go by, there's less and less chance.
She's not getting any younger, and she's almost in the same level as Federer in her career. They don't have a lot of years left. But yes, it does feel that Serena can just, if she plays from the beginning to the end what she knows how to play, she will beat them all. And she can even win 4 Grand Slams in a year if necessary. But today was already noticeable, the slowing down of the footwork.
Lots of unforced errors. We love unforced errors.
It's true.
But is this a kind of women's tennis thing? You can be a world beater in the first few rounds and then lose. It does happen in the men's, but less often. It happens like with Tsitsipas. He was looking like a world beater until maybe today.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Against Raonic, that comes out of nowhere.
I mean, Raonic had gone missing, hadn't he? He was
completely
like his face was on milk cartons because he was disappeared. But now, straight sets. Yeah. What the hell? Did you see it?
Did Tsitsipas get a break the whole match? I don't think he did.
No. He
couldn't return the serve, could he?
Nothing.
It's a shame because on previous episodes we always hark back to when are the big three? When is someone going to interrupt that? Tsitsipas, as I call him, was the man to do that. But then
let's not take the piss out of an arse at the end of a Greek surname, or my Malonis is going to get it as well.
I didn't know. We'll edit that out. So take 2.
For those of you who don't know, Stefano actually has a half Greek background.
Yes. So Stefano TNA. Yeah, we thought he's the man to do it, but it's 1 step forward, 2 steps backwards, as with all these contenders. So, will it be Medvedev next?
Well, what I found frustrating today is I was hoping, I think Djokovic is favourite for the tournament. I think everyone thinks that.
Yes.
Yeah, I agree.
And I thought one of Tsitsipas and Bautista Agut could be the one to put him out in the, quarterfinal they would have met?
Yep.
And they both went in the same night. So.
Yes, we spoke about this today, actually. Boom, there goes that prediction.
And I really think Cilic, I'm guessing you'll disagree, David. I'm not sure about Stephen. Yeah. I think there's more to him than just the serve. And he played really well against a really tough opponent. And,
So Tsitsipas is out. Serena is out. and there's a few more.
Osaka,
Coco,
of course.
we're going
Oh yeah, sorry.
Osaka, of course.
Oh
Yeah,
yes,
yeah.
That match got me excited because you remember just some time ago, Osaka gave a lesson to Coco
definitely.
Gauff.
And now it's been reversed, yeah.
Osaka didn't know how to slow down and say, let's just make a rally. She was going for every shot.
And she said after the match, Osaka, I don't have a champion's mentality in terms of when I'm not playing well, I can't find a way to win, which is
Yes.
quite a shocking admission for two-time Grand Slam champion.
Opponents were saying that the top three, and Serena as well, the reason why they win so many Grand Slams is they have the ability to get out of their game and have plan B, C, D,
Yeah.
F. That's what Osaka did not do today.
Or even just to hang on with their game, and they won't even panic. So, like, if you look at Nadal against De Minaur, I think, in the ATP Cup, De Minaur was all over
It
him
was
for
insane.
almost 2 sets, and then Nadal suddenly pinches a break, and the third set's gone in an instant. It's
Done.
just
Yes.
crazy, the mentality difference.
It's curious because Nadal doesn't strike me as the kind of player who will just let games go.
He stayed always playing his game. He stayed
Very-
there
yeah.
and suddenly started working.
Well said. When Osaka lost, tell me this because I don't know this. How warm was the handshake? It was famous when Osaka beat Coco.
It was very special.
There was kind of, she was comforting her.
Osaka pulled her for
Doesn't
a hug.
always happen in the ladies' game, does it? Someone's
No,
very,
so it was
very
really nice.
frosty. She's an exception, isn't she, in terms
It's
of
not
on
normal.
the circuit? You don't get 15, 16, 17-year-olds anymore like you used to 25 years ago.
No, you don't. At least it doesn't seem like it.
So it'd be very interesting to see, how she develops if she's burnt out in a few years' time, or if she really pushes on. Because I think the last people who were kind of child prodigies, really,
They
was
were.
probably the Williams sisters,
Or Hingis, yeah.
Agassi, Sampras,
Mats Wilander,
Mats Wilander,
Borg. But now
Boris
less
Becker.
so. Federer, when he really came through, was 21, 22, wasn't
It's true, yeah.
he? Yeah.
Maybe something is happening. We're just
Yeah.
changing a little bit and taking things less
Definitely.
focused or serious. I don't know what it is.
Talking of people who came through earlier, Nick Kyrgios.
That's a
He's
great
getting the
one.
column inches. Have we seen his matches at all?
What do you think,
Could he
Steve?
do it? Could he get deep?
I think he can, yeah. I think his mentality's changed a lot, and he's got a lot of positive energy in the bank from his, when he first gave the money for the Aces. So many
Yeah,
people have followed on
fantastic,
that
yeah.
and have supported him, and I think he's just gaining more confidence in where he is mentally, really. And he keeps bringing that up recently, how much in a better place he is, and I think that's what he
Such
needs.
a talented player.
Well,
Exactly.
he plays really well when he plays for a team.
Yeah.
Ah, yes.
He doesn't have those moments of disconnecting completely from the match. He organized this whole event for the Fires in Australia, and suddenly the whole nation is on his shoulders, and there's something about him that feels more responsible than before, which is a teamwork, isn't it? So
Yeah.
I haven't seen him disconnect.
It must make a
So-
difference. Imagine if you're Nick Kyrgios' opponent and you're facing him, you kind of lose a bit of motivation to beat him, knowing that if he aces you, that it's going to go to a good cause. I'm not saying for a moment that people are I'm going to let this one go by because it's money for charity, but it can make that little difference if you're an opponent, you're exhausted, and you kind of, if you hate the opponents across the net, you want to beat them even more, don't you? Which can
Yeah.
work both ways. It can put more pressure on you and make you lose more points.
You would
Yes.
feel slightly guilty if you just got a little clip of the racket on a ball to stop it
Well,
being an ace,
exactly.
but nowhere
Yeah,
near
this,
getting it
this,
back.
this could mean a koala doesn't get their place at the animal sanctuary to have their burns tended to. Or
Even McEnroe
Yeah.
on the interview, on-court interview, said, so from now on, I'll pay it 1,000 Australian Opens per set that you win until the end of the
Yeah.
Australian Open.
yeah,
That's just putting pressure on them, isn't it?
Yes, I think he's carrying it. And I don't know if it's going to boil over and pop.
I think he should
We'll
enter
see.
the mixed doubles. It hasn't started yet, so if McEnroe will have to pay even more if Kyrgios enters that, wins the singles, and aces. He's going to get some aces in the mixed doubles. Can I say that? Is that a bad thing
Yeah.
to say? I'm sure he's going to. There'll be some weak men players in there. That's
It
why
will
he's going
make
to get the
sense,
aces.
yes. And he's not
Yeah.
the only one with aces.
Yeah, Karlovic, is he in it or is he out?
I
He
haven't
needs to
seen
sign
him.
up in it.
I haven't
Yeah.
seen him.
Yeah,
Karlovic and
Isner?
Isner involved.
Bring
and-
back
Yeah.
Ivanisevic.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, Veterans tournament. That's going to be some money in the bank.
It's definitely a very interesting Australian Open.
Definitely. I mean, one of the great things about the Australian Open, I think, is it tests the extremes. The Australian is generally very hot, so what players can cope well in the hot conditions. But with the awful conditions here, that's something else completely. And no player should be made to suffer because of the conditions. So it's a shame, because I've always liked the Australian, because it does challenge you in terms of the heat. Who's the strongest, who's got the endurance, but there are limits to that. So
I feel like the Australian's also the least predictable, because everyone's come back from the year's break. Less predictable because everyone's just coming back from their off season. They're at different stages of form occasionally. So like 2 years ago when Federer and Nadal came back from nowhere and made the final, and in that tournament there were so many 5-set matches along the way as well.
It's true.
So many epic games.
I want to speak about Medvedev and Federer, because Medvedev is definitely the guy that has the mentality from the youngsters to win a Grand Slam. There's something about him. He is one of the new generation that is finally ready to win a Grand Slam. What do you think?
Yeah, he seems to have a lot more confidence in himself. He doesn't need to worry about what other people are thinking, what the crowd are thinking, like you saw it straight away at the start of the US Open.
Exactly.
Couldn't care less what the crowd thought of him. He was willing to wind him up. And you could just see, I'm 2 sets down. I just keep playing my tennis and see where that gets me.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
Nearly got him the title in the end of the day. So.
He was insane.
Very nearly, yeah. And the first round this year was against TFO. Is it TFO?
Oh, it's a tough first round, to be fair.
American, not a bad player. He came on court, TFO, as I remember, in a kind of animal print onesie. But maybe this was a nightmare I had. But he's a good player.
Medvedev is definitely one of those. So
did you think that about Tsitsipas, though, too? I thought Tsitsipas would go deep.
He hasn't shown it yet, and Medvedev has in the US Open. Reaching a final in the US Open and doing what he did to Nadal, Tsitsipas haven't showed that.
Winning the year-end tournament at the O2.
Yeah, that's got to mean something.
It's different, isn't it? I mean, look at Zverev, who's still in the Australian Open, isn't he? He had a straight sets win the other night.
Straight sets win most
What's going
matches.
on? What's wrong? He must have had a bang on the head. Maybe he's got rid of the chains around his neck.
Something happened, man.
Wouldn't we look stupid if Zverev actually won the whole shooting match? Every episode we go, he hasn't got it.
It's true, man. And winning the year-end O2 final tournament is not a Grand Slam. It's not 5 sets, so it's not the same thing. Even if you can win that, it's still not a Grand Slam.
It shows you can put together performances against the big players, but it's only a week long at the end of the day to go 2 weeks at a slam and keep your focus.
Exactly.
Well, such a big difference, isn't it? Best of 3 sets over best of 5 sets. And also, very big difference, the Australian Open, first to 10 in the final set tiebreak against first to 7, because we haven't discussed this, have we?
No.
Millman in the final set tiebreak against Federer. Is this Australia Open the first year they've gone to the best of 10?
Unfortunately, yes.
In the tiebreak. And Wimbledon this year was the first time.
Unfortunately, yes.
So, if it had been the first to 7, Millman would have won 7-4, wouldn't he?
True.
Handily. Yeah. So, it makes a big difference, doesn't it?
It's difficult to say. I mean, if it was until 7, maybe the whole dynamic of the tiebreak would have been different.
Do you like it, Stephen? Do you like first to 10?
I don't like it, to be honest. I mean,
two clear games, do you prefer, or first
definitely
to 7?
prefer 2 clear games, but I just don't see the need to elongate it by 3 points just because it's the 5th set.
I would agree with that, actually. So
I understand why they did that.
You're in favour, David?
No, I'm in favour of going back to the marathons that never end.
There's only one reason the tiebreak exists, and that's John Isner.
The great thing about the tiebreak now, I suppose, the first to 10, there's more chance of a big comeback from 8-4 rather than from 6-love down. You can come back from 9-love down. Yes. Maybe one day we'll see a comeback from 9-love down. But my worry is if I was a player, I'm a very confused individual in society anyway, I would forget it was the first to 10 and I would be celebrating it.
I forgot when I watched, when he went 7-4, I was, especially if you drop to the floor as well.
Yes.
So now you've got to get your focus back and play
climb up to the royal box and hug Prince Andrew and you've actually don't win.
Hug Prince Andrew. That's getting cut out, isn't it?
And who are our predictions? Who's going to actually win it? I agree with you, Stephen. I think Djokovic must be the favourite. But then I thought that about Serena Williams in the ladies.
Yeah, that's true.
I thought Tsitsipas would justify seeding at least. Who's going to win? Who would you put your money on?
Yeah, you got to go Djokovic, but I've got a little feeling of Medvedev. I feel like if he gets to the final, he tends to do well against Djokovic. He obviously lost the last one by a narrow margin, but
how does the draw go? I mean,
he's in Nadal's half.
Nadal's half, okay.
So
and Federer's in Djokovic's half.
Yeah,
you'd have to back Djokovic against Federer, I suppose. And Nadal Medvedev. Well, is it Medvedev's turn after the US Open? Could he just turn it around? David?
Yeah, I like that prediction. I think if I would predict something out of the box, it has to be or Medvedev or Kyrgios. If we're going to stay comfortable, it's going to be Djokovic.
I've just got a funny feeling if Nadal wins, he equals Federer's record and everyone's looking to Djokovic closing the gap too. I just got a feeling that Federer, Djokovic and Nadal, none of them will win. Yeah, I'm going to go for a dark horse too. So Kyrgios, I'd love to win. And in the ladies?
I was going for Wozniacki. Oh, there you go. I was asking about somebody. Here we go. Wozniacki's last match was today.
Yeah.
Done. Is one of my favorites. Yeah, so who's...
Halep. But I've got a feeling about Barty.
Barty?
I think they often retain it. So
yeah, I'd probably agree with you with Barty as well, yeah.
Coco, no, I think someone's going to get her.
Too early.
Yeah, I think that.
Pliskova?
Yes, also a possibility. She plays so well. She has so much power. It's funny how we're putting so many names into who can win the girls. It's so difficult to guess. It's so difficult, so open, every single tournament.
I was saying to you the other day how many new winners there's been of a Grand Slam in the women's game. I think it was 11 of the last 17 slams have been a first-time winner.
Unbelievable.
Is that good or bad?
I think it's bad.
Yeah, I think we've got the big three in men's tennis, and it's nice to have something to aim at. But it's a conveyor belt. Awful thing to say, but it's not good for the brand of women's tennis, is it? There's no, there's just Serena Williams to shoot at. The man on the street, probably that's the one player they've heard of, apart from maybe Sharapova, who is just in the desert at the moment.
Yeah.
She doesn't have her drugs to help her win anymore, does she?
No, she hasn't. That's one for another episode, really. Maybe not one for public broadcast. But
not the right time.
Shame. I like old Sharapova.
I like her too. But she never really thought of plan B, did she?
We forgot to mention, Dennis, another one like Tsitsipas.
There you go.
I think,
out in the first round.
It's a matter of time, and shock. Dimitrov, I know he was yesterday's man, but
there you go.
And Berrettini's gone as well.
Berrettini's gone.
The other Canadian lad, as I call him.
You're talking about Aliassime?
Oh yeah,
that's the one.
Yes, he's a good player, but we're hoping that he can come up, and he's very young. He's got time.
Is Stan the man still in the Australian Open? Has he been knocked out?
Still, he won a very long match on the last tie-break as well.
Well, that'll be great. I hope he goes deep, and I wish him well. Should we stay on it and actually talk about where does it stand in the Grand Slams in terms of is it the third best Grand Slam? Is it?
I think all Grand Slams are special. It's very difficult to choose. I like the hard court a lot, but then Wimbledon is my favorite just for a few reasons. And then you guys tell me what you think. The reason why I choose Wimbledon as my favorite is, first of all, there's no music between the games.
God, yes, completely
just
agree.
that.
What other Grand Slams have it? Is it the US Open
All
which
of
has
them.
music?
All of them.
Does the
French?
Aussie Open have?
I don't think the French does.
Let's find
Definitely
out.
does, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And then other reasons for the Wimbledon is that even though I'm not very fond of staying with tradition, somehow in tennis it makes sense.
I totally agree.
Doesn't it?
It makes it different, doesn't it?
It just makes
They're
it
all
different.
in white.
But then there's something spectacular about the US Open and the Australian. The French is my least favorite because it's endless. All those players that you don't see all year, they all appear because they know how to put the ball back in court.
The dirt rats, as Andre Agassi called them.
There you go.
Yeah. Stephen, how would you rank the tournaments? Where would the Australian come in terms of...
It depends what you're ranking them on, because Australia's never going to be my favourite just because what time it's on. I just don't get to see enough of the live matches. Whereas Wimbledon and French are at the right time. Even the US is better because you can stay up and watch the matches.
That is tricky with the US.
We're talking about geography.
Staying late.
Yeah.
But if you're at work, the Aussie does clash, doesn't it? Yeah, definitely, yeah.
But I think if you're just looking at the tennis, I think the Australian probably produces the best matches because the court's quick enough for it to be attacking tennis, but Unlike Wimbledon, the serve doesn't dominate as much in Australia.
I like that.
So you don't get the big servers like Isner and Anderson getting to the semi-finals and playing each other.
Yeah,
So I feel
that's
like
true,
you get the best tennis at the Australian Open.
And there's this excitement
Good
in the
point.
air for the year starting as well. There's something about the Australian that just brings everybody.
My problem with the US and Australian is they're just so similar. They're two hard court tournaments. If you showed me one Australian Open match and one US Open match and had a blind testing, like, is this Pepsi or is this Coke? I don't think I could tell the difference. Are they even played on the same colour courts?
There's a big difference in speed between the two courts, though, because they've slowed down the US Open courts quite a bit. Hence, Nadal's doing better there, and he's got more slams there than Australia. Whereas you look the other way around,
good
Djokovic
point,
has absolutely dominated Australia. I'm not sure how Federer's done on both. I think Federer's won more US, but that was years ago when the US Open was a quicker court.
And Djokovic is very good at the Australian, which obviously takes away from Federer, I suppose.
Yeah.
They're back-to-back as well as two hard court tournaments. I just think the French and Wimbledon are so different. The French has a long build-up. There's a proper season. This is the clay court season. It's proper, whereas the Australian Open, there's not much of a build-up, which is exciting because, some players come to it cold. Wimbledon, there's a very small grass court build-up.
None.
Which is a shame.
Nothing.
I would just like to see more grass court tennis. And so I would say Wimbledon first, as most people, the French second, and then US and Australian.
They should come up with a new surface for one of those.
Snow tennis or sand tennis.
Wood carpet.
Wood, it's happened before, actually, wood. Not good for injuries, though.
Well, they must be able to if they've got basketball played professionally on it.
That's true.
Well said.
And that would favour Kyrgios, big basketball player, isn't he? Sampras. So,
It would, wouldn't it?
yeah.
Just because of the wood.
Yeah.
Yeah, they jump up and down, the basketball players. But hey, they have massive shoes compared to tennis players.
I think sand tennis in Brazil, Rio, a fifth Grand Slam on sands. That'd be great.
God, it's
or
like
snow.
volley versus volley. What about the fifth Grand Slam? No, isn't it about time for that?
Yeah, has been talked about in Asia.
It's time to happen. Yeah.
I love tradition. I love the fact there's four. So I think the key for expanding the market is the ATP World Tour End Finals. And I think, much as I loved it in London, it should move around the world regularly. I think it's great. It's going to Turin.
Well, I think the Masters need to move around more than anything. Yeah, and like you were saying before, that there's not much build up to Wimbledon. Why is there no Masters on grass before Wimbledon? It just doesn't really balance out the season. Like Federer could have had so many more
100%.
Masters if there was one on grass before Wimbledon.
That's a big disadvantage for the grass court experts. Yeah.
And that should have been perfect to fit in that Masters tournament, really, to get it to the right place. I think Harley's probably the perfect one, have the German Open as the German Masters. And
Yeah, great tournament.
So we're going to move on to the beginning of the year ATP Cup.
Mm-hmm.
My question goes to both of you. It's your question, Jim. Is it worth having two back-to-back tournaments that are based on nations? Is it good? Is it bad? Which one do you prefer?
I think the Davis Cup's always going to have the advantage if it comes first, which it does, doesn't it? It has come first in terms of it's in December, whereas the ATP Cup is afterwards. So it's like people in my office, who like tennis or semi-like tennis are like, well, that's great, but we've had the Davis Cup in its new format, so this is more of the same. But you saw the way the people celebrated Djokovic and Serbia celebrated winning the ATP Cup. That wasn't fake. They were absolutely delighted. It was great. But they are so similar. I couldn't tell you the difference between either of the tournaments. There doesn't seem to be anything. The one difference I can name is the ATP Cup will always be in Australia. And there'll be more travel between it if it stays that way, which is a shame. Again, it's nice to take tennis around the world. So my idea would be to keep the Davis Cup as the sole thing. And if at all possible, which would be problematic, whoever wins the tournament gets to host it the following year. I know that's going to be a problem. When Wales win it soon, which is surely only a matter of time, how are they going to host it? Or the winners get to nominate which country it's in.
I like that a lot.
So, yeah, too similar. I don't think there's room in the calendar for both of them, but I know you might disagree, especially you, David.
First, Stephen.
Well, there's definitely not room in the calendar for the two as they are. There needs to be a change to one of them if they're going to keep them both, and I think one should be mixed gender. So
Yes, absolutely. Like the Hopman Cup, which I loved, which has kind of been replaced by the ATP Cup in the schedule. Yeah.
but even then, I feel
How
like
would
that's
that
still
work?
quite similar because you're still just having the two singles matches and then the doubles to decide. I think there's room for a different format there where you're maybe having 4 singles, 2 of each, and then
Which would take longer. Could it still be fitted in over a day kind of thing?
I think you'd need. I think that's the thing, to have a different format where you have a 2-day match, I guess, and you have a singles day and a doubles day or something on those lines.
Yeah, I'd be in favour of that. Yeah. Because if you just had it like the Hopman Cup, where there was only room for one male player and one female player,
Yeah.
I agree with you there, Stephen. That's good.
There's this new setup for the Davis Cup as well, isn't it? Which now makes both tournaments even more similar to each other.
Yeah.
Which, in a way, I'm happy about because I never really followed the Davis Cup too much because of all the sporadic dates. We're so used to putting focus into the tournaments. We get excited about the ATPs or the Grand Slams for a week, for 2 weeks. But then Davis Cup was like all over the year. And then there was this football atmosphere that didn't connect with tennis.
I quite like that, the kind of
Good.
madness of, Great Britain playing Argentina in Argentina. And it was mad. That you can't recreate in the kind of tournament setting. It's home territory partisan.
Yeah. And also you
things.
can bring it to different parts of the country as well. Like Glasgow never gets any tournaments, and suddenly they were hosting matches and encouraging people to play up in Scotland as well.
So I missed that. So
There's
it'd be
always-
nice if they still had a lengthy qualifying. And
Yeah.
then maybe the top 8 go into the Davis Cup final.
I mean, why
But
do we need to have them every year as well? You build up more excitement if you have a World Cup every 4 years. Everyone's really excited to play it. Whereas now there's almost 2 a year where you can become world champions. And
Too much,
means it's
one
not
extreme to
special.
the other, yeah.
Yeah, I don't mind so much the atmosphere. I mind the horns. Just drive me
You
crazy.
don't like the horns.
That's the worst part. I never liked them. Not in football, not in tennis. It's so tiring. But anyway, that's the only thing that I don't like. So what's your option? Do you keep Davis Cup or do you keep the ATP Cup?
Well, the Davis Cup's got more tradition, I think. And I know it has changed, so why not keep it the Davis Cup with still a qualifying for the top 8? Or can I throw a curveball in? Do we need it if you got the Olympics? If you want it once every 4 years, the Olympics is a team competition. Maybe the Olympics should... I quite like the singles element of the Olympics, but maybe the Olympics should take over. I think keep the Davis Cup.
Yeah.
Keep that every year. No ATP Cup and have the Olympics too every 4 years.
yeah, because how important is an Olympic gold to the tennis players at the end of the day? Because, I mean, Nadal's got an Olympic gold, but no one ever includes it when you come to Grand Slam tallies or anything like that. It's just like...
I think it's a great
got
career achievement. Agassi's got an Olympic gold. Becker's got one.
Murray's got 2.
Federer's never got one, and I'm sure he'd kill for a singles one. He says his doubles his proudest career achievement, but is it really? I think that's the one thing missing from his CV, Federer, getting that Olympic singles one.
I think so too, but I do agree with Stephen about the tennis players. They want the Grand Slams. If they would exchange a Grand Slam, most of them, those that never had a Grand Slam win, if some genie from above said, so do you want to win a Grand Slam or a medal? I think they would go for the Grand Slam.
Say if Federer had 20 Grand Slam wins and the next nearest competitor was on 12 Grand Slams, if I was Federer, I'd rather win the Olympics if I'd never won it, because you're assured of those Grand Slams. So I think it does have a real importance. It's not as big as the Grand Slams, but it's nice. And I think if a player is tied on 5 or 6 Grand Slams with another player, how do you separate them? I think that Olympic thing, having that on your CV would just tip you over the edge, and you could say, all right, well, if you've got a gun against my head, that bloke's won the Olympics as well. So,
So if Nadal wins this tournament, is he then ahead of Federer rather than equal?
I would say yes.
I think there's more achievement there to be the best player of all time. It's the Grand Slams, not the gold.
Yeah, I agree. But
You love the Olympics, and I love the Olympics too. It's a beautiful thing.
here's my idea. Just have the Davis Cup, abolish the ATP Cup, and have the Davis Cup every year apart from an Olympic year, because I think an Olympic year, I think the tennis calendar gets a bit crowded. So have the Davis Cup 3 out of every 4 years.
Sounds good. What about you, Steve?
I'd go almost the same. I'd have the Davis Cup 2 of every 4 years. And then in the between years, you'd have the Olympics, and you'd have what would be the World Cup, where you have the men and women together playing in a tournament.
Men and women, I think that's a great idea.
Makes sense. It's about time. I would keep don't kill me. I would keep the cup and I would take away the Davis Cup. But I never really liked Davis Cup anyway, so and I love this ATP Cup so much.
Why did you prefer the ATP to the Davis?
I've got a good question.
I've just rarely watched the Davis Cup. Then I got really disconnected from it because it was sporadic all over the year. And suddenly they came up with this ATP Cup and I was able to watch from the first match to the last in 1 week, and that made me very happy.
But then last year's Davis Cup was the same.
I was already so disconnected with the Davis Cup history that I didn't even watch it. Maybe it will grow on me now that it's only in a week or two. So hopefully.
Yeah.
But I like your opinions. Whatever it is, ATP Cup or Davis Cup, only one. So I like that.
So we agree on
and
that,
women.
yeah.
They have to bring the women.
Definitely, yeah.
So would you have preferred it if, say, the Davis Cup had the first rounds as being like, oh, this is the European rounds, and they played it, say, in a week like they do football qualifiers? So you have a match the weekends, midweek match, then match the next weekend.
It's
so
like a World Cup, isn't it?
Yeah, in a way, but you'd
qualifiers.
still be home and away in that time because you're just in Europe. So
that
it's easy
sounds
to
very
travel.
good. I don't mind that at all. That's really good. How about say goodbye to the Cup, say goodbye to Davis Cup, and bring Tennis World Cup? Men and women away qualifiers, let's do it. But it will be so complicated with the calendar that these players have already, isn't it? That's why it's quite tricky, this conversation about the Davis Cup and the cups. But I am personally attached to this cup. It's coming next year, isn't
Well,
it?
I think
Coming back.
what we have proven is that there's a lot of options that can work better than what we currently have, and
Well said.
really there needs to be
Well
something
said.
done about it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Both tournaments have produced some really good matches, and both tournaments, a large proportion of the big players have taken part, haven't they? Which is amazing.
It
They
was
really
very
have.
special. So now speaking of what happened in the ATP Cup, did you guys enjoy it? Did you pay attention?
And I feel like Australia really got behind it as well, because when you compared it to the Davis Cup in Spain, only the Spanish matches were getting any fans. The other ones were being played in front of empty stadiums. So
Wow.
I feel like that really helps. Obviously, you had Serbian fans, there's loads of Greeks there, so fans watching them, and generally the multicultural nature of the country helped a lot. So
Great. So shall we wrap it up because
All right, I've got some
I'm
questions on
very
my
excited
sleeve.
about
Yeah.
that. We're gonna start
Got
this
them
or
on
that.
here, yeah.
what's that going to be?
So this is a new segment. It's called This or That. And so drum roll, tonight's guest could be anyone. And your name, please.
Me?
Yeah,
David.
your occupation.
I don't know actually. I watch the stars.
You watch the stars. A star watcher.
Yeah, Star
Like
Watcher.
from Space Odyssey 2001.
Absolutely.
Okay, so I'm going to give you two choices and you've got to say this or that.
I'm ready.
Hopefully you'll join the leaderboard. So the time starts now. Cue the music, please, Ivona. Lob or passing shot?
Passing shot.
Serena or Venus? Answer, please.
Venus.
Borg or McEnroe?
McEnroe.
Headband or baseball cap?
Headband.
Is that your final answer?
Definitely.
Balls. Head or Slazenger?
Head.
Double-handed or single-handed?
Double-handed.
Men's doubles or mixed doubles?
Mixed doubles.
Amazon Prime or Eurosport?
Eurosport.
10 seconds. The bullied or the bully?
Bullied.
Your time's up.
Woohoo!
So let's have a look at the scores there.
Bam,
So
bam,
10
bam,
questions. You got 7.5 out of 10.
Damn. Now it's
How'd you get it right or wrong?
Well, the rules are on the website, so you'll have to check them up.
He's making up the story. And now make him.
So looking at the
Do
leaderboard,
it him. Do him.
What was your? You had one really controversial one. Oh yeah, lob or passing shot.
I
You
prefer.
always hit lobs against me.
But I prefer the passing shot. It
Then
depends.
hit more of them. I prefer having to return a passing shot than a lob.
you can
The
do it.
passing shot is a bit more spectacular, but the lob is awesome.
All right, okay, so this or that. And your name, please.
Stephen,
Occupation,
engineer,
star sign.
cancer,
Correct. Starting now, 10 questions. Lob or passing shot?
passing shot,
Would you rather lose a point by hitting the ball in the net or hitting the ball long?
long,
Serena or Venus?
Venus,
Lendl or Connors?
Connors,
Wristbands or no wristbands?
one wristband,
Dunlop or Head?
Dunlop,
Sports Direct or Decathlon?
decathlon,
Men's doubles or women's doubles?
men's,
Ruzeski or Henman?
Rosetsky.
Would you rather break someone's heart or have your heart broken?
Break someone's heart.
Which one?
Actually, no. Have my heart broken because I think I'm heartless, so it wouldn't take long.
Exactly.
Stop the clock. Okay, Stephen. So you had very good. Both of you had no passes there. You got 6.5. So you are fourth on the leaderboard.
That last question was brutal.
That
So
was
there we go.
brutal. Brutal.
There we go.
So you see, that's what we're going to start doing as well.
And the rules are a mystery. No one ever knows the rules.
Are you ready? Name
Oh my God.
the creator of the game.
Okay.
Name,
James Christie,
occupation.
international Lothario,
Whoa.
unemployed.
Married or single?
Bit both.
You both? Careful with your
I
wife.
did that. Not married in a relationship.
Ah, there you go. BBC or Eurosport?
Eurosport.
Men's doubles or mixed doubles?
Pass.
Double-handed or single-handed?
Single-handed.
Head or Wimbledon?
Head.
Headbang or baseball cap?
Headband.
Agassi or Sampras?
Agassi.
Serena or Venus?
Neither.
Lob or passing shot?
Lob.
Dinner with your mother or your father?
Dinner with my father, sadly, is the only possibility.
That's okay.
But no offense to my mother.
No, of course. I love it. St. Anne's or Hove?
A very good question. I would say definitely St. Anne's.
Woo,
Yeah,
that's the cause we're fighting for.
They need me more.
Boo-hoo.
So what was my score?
6.8 for you.
Oh no, you lapped me.
I was not as good as you, but we tried our best. This was a really great episode, not only because we talked about interesting things, but also because we had our guest. Jim, are you happy about what our guest did, Stephen, over there?
Well, he's not really a guest anymore.
He's
is
not
he?
a guest
He's
anymore.
the,
He was an intruder last...
how I think of it is Stephen is the third wheel on the Robin Reliance.
there
That
you
is
go.
Unforced Errors. And without that third wheel,
I don't know.
the car would teeter over.
It's true.
Have you seen a car with three wheels? It's
I
the
have,
most
yes.
iconic British car. So I think without that, it would just be an ordinary car.
There you go, Steve. You heard that?
Not a very good one, I must say.
So think about joining us again. He speaks well and he has his opinions and...
Definitely great
It's-
things come in threes.
Yeah, that's true. It's a magical number, man.
Nirvana,
Yes, Ivana was
Police.
there as well, exactly.
Bananarama.
Yeah, threesomes. Mhm.
Anyway,
One day.
that's good night from us. I mean,
Who
to ask a
knows?
personal question, I know this is really awful, but
Mm.
have you ever taken part in a tennis threesome in terms of the kind of 2-on-1 on the court?
I have, yes.
Yeah.
The person that is playing singles is with the normal line singles
Yeah,
and the other
normal
ones
lines,
with
yeah.
the doubles. And I preferred to stay on the side of the singles.
So do I.
What about you, Steve?
Stephen.
Well, I felt like I had to serve and volley when I was on the side on my own,
Okay.
just to close the point off quickly, because you're never going to outrally them from the back of the court.
Wow,
really.
how about
I-
that?
I feel on the singles side, just lure them into the doubles lines because they're on the doubles side and they're kind of, their mind goes a bit and they think they're playing doubles, especially if you're running around making it seem like you're two people. So they're just going to naturally hit it into the doubles lines and you've won the point.
But you're then giving them a better angle for a cross court, so you're giving yourself
That is
more area
true.
to cover.
That's probably why I lose. But I do prefer playing on the singles
Normally
side.
when there's three, whoever wins stays and the other ones rotate.
Yeah,
That's really good on a best of two games.
until someone dies.
Yeah, exactly. And on that note, we can
What a
say
way
goodbye.
to wrap up.
Absolutely. Thank you very much for coming, Stephen. I hope
Thanks
you
for
join us
inviting me.
again because it was really good. He was
Oh,
falling
absolutely,
asleep
yeah.
in the beginning, you remember?
Yeah.
But I guess the conversation...
Our listeners can relate to that. Our listener, sorry.
Yeah. So thank you very much and we'll see you next week.
God bless.